Okay. Thank you guys for joining. This is MyTrek's first webinar that we are doing, and we're really excited to have you guys be a part of this. How we're going to do this is we're going to have a series of questions that I've put together for Anika. Some of these questions I actually received from the students that are on Trex. So it would be really interesting to just understand, Anika, your perspective of your journey of how you started from high school and then you went to Kelley Business School. And while we're going through this journey, if you guys have any questions, there is a way for you to ask your questions. It's a chat, and all the questions will be addressed at the end of the conversation. So, feel free to ask your questions and we'll try to get to them towards the end. Okay. On that note, how's your Monday going, Anika?
It's going well. It's been busy, but typical Sunday, Monday. Sorry.
Nice. So, Anika, let's get started. Let's have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're at your college. Just a brief introduction.
Yeah. So my name's Anika. I'm a incoming junior at the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University, and I'm currently majoring in information systems, business analytics, and I have a minor in public health.
Very nice. And what made you want to study business and have a minor in health?
Yeah, so I would say my answer is a little funny because to me, the reason I wanted to study business is because I honestly did not know what else to study. I know I had in mind there's a few things that I did not want to do. I didn't want to go into the medical field. I didn't want to go into intricate data, so coding or engineering. I knew that wasn't my cup of tea, so I wasn't going to do any of that. I didn't want to have kind of a liberal arts major. I didn't think I was too much of the creative type to be able to do that all throughout college. So, business was kind of all that was there. And I've always been kind of interested in how things work and how things run on the back end of things. And so it kind of just worked out for me that way. In terms of the health major, I know I said I didn't want to go into the healthcare field, but my freshman year, I just had an extra spot, an extra elective class to take, and there was an intro to public health class. And so I took that. I really enjoyed the subject. I really enjoyed the class, and the minor wasn't too many more credits. And I'm now finished with it, and honestly, it was a great decision. It was kind of, for me at least, a break away from all of the business classes I was taking, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay. I really love your honesty here. I think like a lot of times people are like, yeah, I've always wanted to study this since I was very young. And your story is a little bit different because you're like, I didn't know what to decide. So I ended up going for business.
Right.
It's a really tough decision. And then on top of that, you ended up going to one of the best business schools in the US. So how did that happen? How do you go from like, I don't know what to do to going to the top business school in the country?
So funny enough for me, Kelley was actually the best business school I got into. I mainly applied in Texas. Since I've been here, they have a ton of business programs here in the state. And so I applied to a lot here, and I did get into most of them. But my dream for going to college, one thing I knew I did want was to go out of state for college. I have an older brother. He went out of state as well. He loved it. I wanted that same experience. So combining those two factors of it being a great business school and it was an out-of-state school, that kind of helped me make my decision. I kind of heard about the college, I guess, through, I think my dad was the one who introduced it to me. Again, I was a junior, senior, didn't know too much about schools. And I remember he actually had a book of like the top 100 best business programs. And so that was kind of something I was able to look at. Kelley was on there. It kind of met my academic expectations, I would say. I wasn't like a crazy high SAT score or great grades. So it kind of met where I fell in as a student.
Okay. And so if you were to like go back and tell me what year in high school did you decide that business was going to be what you wanted to study?
I would say it would probably have been around junior year. I think it was a little later than most students know what they want to study in college. I think sophomore year, I started taking some kind of businessy electives that sounded cool to take, and would kind of also fulfill a requirement I needed for high school. So I wouldn't say it was until, I would say it was probably about junior year when I decided that, oh, maybe this is something that I could pursue as a career.
Okay. And then what, I think we have a lot of folks, maybe some folks from your school as well. What high school did you go to?
I went to Centennial High School in Frisco.
Okay. I think we might have a few people on the call from Centennial. Okay. Yeah. So what I was going to ask you is, if you were to go back and just talk about, because you said you had a couple different schools that you applied to. What are some of the other schools that you applied to?
So in terms of better business or good business programs that I was looking at, A&M was one of my top contenders, but I actually did not get into the A&M Business School, so I applied for economics. OU was one of my kind of top over there as well. I had UT Dallas on my list as well. UIUC, which is the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, also up north. They have a pretty good business school as well. I applied to Penn State. I applied to a few other Texas schools, so like Baylor, Texas Tech. And I think there were a few more, but that was kind of just the main ones I was really focusing in on.
Okay. This is a question that I got from one of the students. Is like, what factors should high school students consider when choosing which business schools to apply? So how did you format that list?
So again, I would, like I said before, just be honest with yourself about where you stand academically as a student. Because I applied in 2023, or even before that, 2022, when we were still in the midst of the COVID rulings and everything like that. And most of my schools were test score optional. And so I know now, coming out of that, for a while now, they've been requiring test scores again. So if you are honestly a student who does not score well on standardized testing, because I was too, that was not my strong suit. So looking honestly at that, I think a really smart thing to do is to apply really where you fit in. I would recommend you have many different levels of schools. So you want to have your safety schools where you will for sure get in. You want to have kind of your reaches as well, where maybe you're bordering on the line of getting in and it's kind of little up higher than where you think you place academically. So I would say when thinking about where to apply, that would be the number one thing for me is to look at kind of academics, how you fit in there. And then I would also just look at student life, where it is in the United States, I think is also a very important thing. Things like weather, sports, that matter to me as well. So it all depends on the kind of person you are, if that doesn't matter to you. But those were the things that I mainly looked at.
Okay, I see. Normally, is there a process? Like, did you have a list of like, I'm going to apply to 10 schools and that's it? Did you have like a cutoff plan? How many total schools did you apply to?
I think I applied to about 14 or 15, I think was the number. So, that was, I think, somewhat a lot more than the typical student would apply to.
Okay.
I think there should definitely be a cutoff. I don't think you should apply to a crazy amount of schools because it's just more work for you. To each their own. If you would like to apply to numerous amounts of schools, go ahead, but keep in mind there are also application fees that come along with applying to every school. So, And then you also have to write essays and supplementals for every single school. So I think anywhere between 10 to 14, 15 is probably like the sweet spot of the amount of schools.
Okay. Can you walk us through how you got into Kelley? So you said that test scores were optional. Was it like a very much like you applied in, I'm guessing you applied in October and then you heard back by March or something like that?
So the way it worked for me was Kelley specifically has kind of what they call a direct admit to their business school. So if you meet a certain criteria as a senior applying, you are direct admission into their business school. Now, if you don't meet the criteria, you can still be a part of Kelley as a standard admit, and you have to have a certain GPA and get certain grades your freshman year of college to then be placed into the business school your sophomore year of college. So you can either come in as a direct admit or a standard admit. The way to come in as a direct admit is to meet a certain test score and a certain GPA. So like I said, I applied test optional. So there is another thing you can do if you don't meet either of those two. There's something called the Kelley petition is what they call it, is basically you are just writing another supplemental on top of the one you already wrote for Indiana. And when I was writing it, I don't know if they've changed it or not. When I was writing it, the question was, tell us about your most proud achievement. So that was what I had to write about, just another supplemental, and you submit that. And that, if you don't meet the test score or the GPA, that gives you another chance to become a direct admit without having those. So specifically for Kelley, you can either meet the numbers or you can write this petition to become a direct admit.
Okay, I see. What was it that you wrote in there? What's so special about that petition process?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it really is just kind of a deeper dive into what did you do in high school that maybe didn't let you meet the numbers that they had. So that's kind of what I think it was, or they just kind of honestly want to know a little bit more about you. So I specifically wrote about my scouting program and the Eagle Award that I received. That took numerous amounts of hours. So it was something that I could write about and genuinely project about how it was my most proud, greatest achievement. So I think you really just, if you are writing that essay, you have to take a deep dive into kind of what can you talk about thoroughly and expressively.
Can you tell me about that? I don't know what the Eagle Award is. I'm sorry. Can you go on into that?
Going through the Scouts BSA program, you're required to complete many different levels of scouting, and the Eagle is the highest. It typically takes people anywhere between 4 to 6 to 7 years, depending on how fast you move through it. And at the end of it, you complete a service project. So I created and managed an entire community service project and did reports, did budgets. I led it. So to me, it was something that taught me a lot and was something I was able to write about.
Okay. So you said it was like a 4-year program that you went through?
So yeah, depending on the Scouts BSA program goes from like 6th grade to whenever you get that, however long you want to keep going, typically from 6th grade until you age out at 18 years old. So however long it takes for you to get through it, there's different steps, different merit badges, different community service things you have to achieve to get through the entire program.
Oh, okay. I see. And you feel like that is definitely something that helped you kind of put your story together?
Yes, for sure. I also wrote about this in my personal statement. So that's just the essay that you have to write for your Common App, for your applied Texas. I don't think they still have that, but just to get kind of, it's your main college essay when you think about that. And so I wrote about that as well. And just my time in the program, I was able to write about so many different things about it because I had so much experience with like leadership and adversity, facing challenges, being on my own, flexibility. It was a great program. It taught me so much, for sure.
Okay. Your video is still blurry, by the way.
Yeah,
your Wi-Fi has not completely, but I hope, but your voice is clear so we can hear you.
Okay.
I'm curious to know, now that you're in college, like what are some of the things that you were doing in high school that you think definitely helped you versus some of the things that were kind of like maybe were a waste of time, I guess, like you don't have to do, because you have so many things that you have to do in high school. It's a really busy time. How do you prioritize? Like what advice would you have for the students? Where should they put their focus?
I think it is very, very hard to find that balance. And I mean, you as a person kind of have to think about what matters to you more. To me, I really did want a good balance of school and just life in general. So I was involved in a couple things, like at Centennial specifically. I was a manager for the dance team there. So that took up a lot of my time. And then again, I was involved in both the Girl Scouts program and the Scouts Be Safe program. So all combined, they did take up a good chunk of my high school career. And then when you think about it, there's also grades and SATs and ACTs and APs and all the things that make your GPA and give you those good numbers. And so I wouldn't want to say that I sacrificed those. I think I just was able to kind of find a way to balance both. But to me specifically, I would say that focusing on leadership and extracurriculars and things that you can write about in an essay and talk about in an interview, even put on a resume, to me, I think those did matter just a little more than getting a perfect SAT score or a perfect grade in the class. I wouldn't say I just threw those all away and just focus on my extracurriculars. I definitely would not suggest that. But I think also during my time of high school, that was kind of what was more important to me, was getting people skills and social skills and interpersonal skills rather than getting a perfect 4.0. And so that's kind of what mattered to me specifically. But yeah.
How many organizations and clubs, organizations, sports activities were you involved in?
So I was involved in those three. I did a lot of volunteering through NHS, so the National Honor Society. That's something 11th and 12th graders are able to be a part of. And I think that's it. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, so I was doing that up until about my sophomore year of high school as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I also had, I had a job outside of school as well. I started that in the summer, continued that throughout the school year. So I worked a retail job as well.
Okay. I see. I was also part of National Honor Society back in the day when I was in high school. So yeah. But that's good to know that they're still around.
Oh yeah, they're still around.
So I think right now during the COVID time, it became test optional. Tests are definitely coming back in schools. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of schools that are like, no, we're going to bring the SAT scores back. And, it's a little bit of a difficult situation because I understand why colleges are looking for SAT scores, but I was also, Anika, one of those students that didn't do so well on the test. And a lot of it was because taking SAT prep classes I didn't have the time or the financial, I wasn't able to take it. So I wasn't able to take the classes. And really these SATs are really about test taking strategies at the end of the day, right? They are very little reflective of what you're learning in school. They're more reflective of like, how good of a test taker you are at the end of the day. I think that's pretty much standard throughout all tests that we have to take. So I was also in the same exact situation. Yeah. Back in the day, because SATs have been around for a very, very long time. But that's good to know. But so when you're not such a good test taker, your essay becomes more important. And I think a lot of the top schools counselors, when they're looking at applications, like they look at the SAT, they're getting a lot of applicants that have like near perfect SAT scores. And how do they differentiate which student is really the one that they should accept into their school, right? And I think that's where you said your essay and then that petition essay to back it up really helped you get into Kelley, right?
Right. Yeah. I would say I think one of the most important things with essays specifically is to make sure you're writing authentically. You kind of want a unique topic. You want to bring something new to the table where it's like a college admissions officer who's reading thousands of essays can find like, oh, I want that student at my university. Because you kind of don't want to fall in with the rest of the crowd that's applying. It's very, very easy to do that, especially when all the Common App prompts are the same. Like everyone is writing about the same thing. So it is really, really hard. But I think good brainstorming, being able to find your strengths, being able to find your weaknesses, being able to talk about a unique thing you did in high school, that will really make you stand out.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts about using ChatGPT and AI to write essays these days?
I mean, I am a college student, so I use quite a bit of ChatGPT, as most students do in these days. I do like it for idea generation. I mean, I think specifically on when you put in a prompt and are asking ChatGPT to kind of brainstorm it or write it for you even. I think it does give a very good outline, and kind of topics and bullets that you should talk about. I don't think anyone should use it to write their entire essay. I think you definitely need to have some of you, some of your authenticity, because a college admissions counselor, professors, all of them, they can totally spot an AI written piece of
Yes.
work. So I think it's good for idea generation, for brainstorming, for even an outline of what your essay could look like. But use it cautiously would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I am it's so new. We don't know what's going to happen, right? The essay game might change as well, right? It's so new, but I'm very curious. But I do know that there are colleges already looking, and they're able to see what's ChatGPT versus students' actual story and all that stuff. In a way, it's kind of exciting because now the weight of like focusing on like using the big fancy words and grammatically correct is kind of shifting to just focusing on being a better human and telling your story as it is, right? I think that's the exciting part. Like, I love that we have that tool to kind of help us edit it, but it really should be our story, our own work, and it needs to come from us. So I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I see what colleges might be struggling with, because let's be honest, it can be very creative and it can probably create a really awesome essay for someone too, so, but they can read through it, they can figure it out. Okay, let me go to my next question. Okay, I covered that. Oh, when do you think is the best time for someone to start thinking about college?
Yeah, so I started, I guess, kind of having that brainstorming, and maybe not brainstorming, but like complete start of college prep, I think sophomore year, is kind of when I guess I started like looking at summer programs and starting a resume and things like that. So very basic prep. But in terms of like having a college list, starting to write essays, I would say that stuff should wait until the summer going into your senior year. When stuff is all fresh on your mind, when you have activities and leadership you can talk about. But I think starting like internal prep with SAT scores, ACT scores, getting good grades, that all should start around sophomore years when I would recommend.
Okay, sophomore year. Okay. So that's when the SAT. What about like actually thinking about what career you're going to go into?
Yeah. I mean, I think depending on the person, I feel like there are some people that know exactly what they want to do with their life, which is great, honestly. And so that way in high school, you can start taking classes. If you want to go into the medical field, start taking more medical classes and things like that. I think you should start to have somewhat of an idea by freshman year. I don't think it has to be completely perfect, because obviously anyone can change a major, anyone can change their mind. But I think you should kind of start having that thought process starting your freshman year, just so you can start maybe taking some classes that align with the major you want to go into.
Okay. I'm curious to know, you went in kind of like undecided and then like into business. Have you had second thoughts about it? Like, do you feel like that this is the path you want to continue?
I think so. I mean, I'm still learning a lot. Kelley, you don't really start taking higher level major specific classes until junior and senior year. So I'm still learning like the basics, but like I said, there's some people who knew exactly what they want to do. I was the kind of person that knew exactly what I did not want to do. So I can say that I am happy where I am. I don't think I would have been able to enjoy another field.
Okay. Good to know. What would you do differently if you were to go back to your freshman self in high school? What things would you do differently?
I think I would focus on trying to get the best grades I could. I think I've heard that colleges are starting to look more holistically at all 4 years of high school. So I would try to get the best grades I could. In this day and age, I would try to focus more on SAT prep. Again, like you, Esther, I'm not a good test taker, but I think I kind of played it off and didn't take it too seriously. So especially now that test scores are coming back, I would focus on that a little more for sure. Trying to think what else. I think that's kind of it. Because like I mentioned, I was kind of more the person that took the less school, more extracurricular approach. So going back, I definitely would have tried to balance that out a little more. Not that I'm unhappy about where I ended up at all, but I think just looking back, if I were to change anything.
Were there any classes in high school that you took that you're like, I should have not taken that? Like that was not a good idea? Or
So
yeah.
I think there were multiple, and I think a lot of them were honestly AP classes. I know they do have a good GPA boost, but the thing is that a lot of people do take AP classes to get college credit, and obviously you don't know in freshman and sophomore year where you're applying to college, but Indiana University didn't take most of my AP credits. And so at the end of the day, now that I'm 3 years out of high school, I'm like, wow, I wish I would not have struggled through that AP class for it to not count for anything. So I know it's hard as an underclassman trying to think about what classes you should take, and you always end up at the AP just because, oh, it's a better GPA boost, which I do agree with. That's exactly what I did. But I think just taking a little bit more of a deeper dive into, oh, will AP Human Geography actually really help me in college? The answer is most likely no, but I guess depending on your major, yes, it definitely could help. But
so tell me a little bit more. So our AP classes weigh like a little bit more on the GPA. Is that why?
Yes, typically they're weighed a little more, so give you a little bit more of a GPA boost if you do well in it.
Okay. But then if you don't do well in them, that can negatively impact your GPA because they technically shift you, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, failing an AP class would not do very well for you. It would tank, I think, your GPA, just would make it go down a little. I mean, I think that's the same with any class though, but obviously the higher weight has a little bit more of an effect.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. How many AP classes did you end up taking total in high school?
I want to say it was like 12 or 13 or 11 maybe, which I don't even think I know people that took more. So
you're saying classes or these are credits?
No, these are classes.
11 AP classes.
I think something around that. And again, like people.
When is the earliest you can start taking AP classes?
Freshman year.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Do you remember what you took freshman year AP?
So it was AP Human Geography. That is what I took freshman year. Okay. And then after that, there's just choices of you can either take an on-level or an AP. So, and then there's also some AP electives that you can take, which I'm sure everyone knows from their course catalog and counselors and things like that. So.
Okay, I see. I'm curious to know, what did you do like over the summers when you were in high school in order to prepare for, what's coming up for college? Did you do any internships or?
Yeah. So my freshman year summer we were still in COVID. So that was the year, that was 2020 when COVID had hit. So I was mainly prepping for SATs and ACTs. I think it was, all online prep basically. But I did it through KD, which I'm sure people have heard of. So that was what I did that summer. I think I'm starting to forget a little bit after that. I was in the Scouts program, so I did go on like a few summer camps and things like that. I also applied for a few summer programs. So I didn't have any internships, but I did do like a few week-long summer programs. One was with the University of Houston. Their summer program was a couple days. It was online. The main one I did was at Kelley. It was called Meet Kelley. That was my junior year, going into senior year, I believe. And so with that, I was able to go to the university. I was able to stay there for a week. It
Okay.
was like I was learning about all their programs, learning about all their majors, just visiting Indiana as a whole. It was a very, very good program. So I would highly recommend doing something like that, especially if there's a college that you're pretty interested in. I know like UT Austin does those as well. I don't know other
Mhm.
schools. I'm sure there are many other schools that do those. And those are mainly for juniors going into senior year. Are
Were
those
those
come to
pretty
the college program?
competitive?
I think it was. There were only about 40 people selected, I believe. So I mean, I'm not sure how many people applied, but I think it was pretty competitive. Um, but yeah, and then like I said before, I had a summer job as well. So I mean, not that that gave me great business experience, but it gave me customer service experience and people experience, which I think is equally, if not more important, especially when you're talking in an interview or writing in an essay.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely believe that people skills are, extremely beneficial,
Mhm.
for sure. Um, One of the things that I was going to ask you about, and I think this is really important. So the summer program that you did at Kelley in
Mhm.
junior year, you said
Yes.
it was competitive. Was there a cost for the program? Did you have to
No.
pay anything?
So it was completely free. Everything was
Okay.
covered. Well, food and dining and like staying and everything was covered. Um, all we had to pay for was like my flight there and flight back.
Okay. I see. And you were there, you said 1 week?
Yes, I was about
Okay.
1 week.
Okay.
And
Did you talk about that program in any part of your application when you
yeah,
applied? Okay.
so I mean, I basically only talked about it in my Indiana supplemental of why I wanted to go there, which I mean, honestly, like I think it was the real reason I did want to go, or one of the main reasons I wanted to go, just because I had already visited the campus, I had seen it, I knew I would have enjoyed it there. And I mean, it introduced me to what Kelley was as a whole, which was the point of the program. So I knew kind of if I went to this school, I knew what I was expecting.
Yeah, I think this is a really good point, and I want to share this with the audience as well. A lot of times when schools have programs like this, and if you apply into that program, if you get accepted, you go to that program, and then when you put that in your application, that, you know what, I was here in the
Mhm.
summer, I really like the program, because it shows that you've already kind of test drove the university and you know that it's a cultural fit for you. And that's really important to them, because then they know that you're committed, and you want to come here. So I think that's an important piece. I've heard a lot of success stories from students that are like, I did a summer program and that's when I realized that this is the right place for me. So I applied, I got in. I think it's because universities, when they're accepting students into the program, they also want to accept the students that, that they feel are going to want to actually accept them back too, right? It's not just like the university accepts you, you also have to accept the university, right? It's a two-way thing, because there are a lot of options. And actually, on that note, there was a really good question somebody posted here. So we have a question here. What do you think is better about the Kelley Business School versus the other schools which you got accepted into?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very easy to look at numbers. So, yes, obviously that was one of the factors. But again, I think this program had really helped just because I was familiar with the way they had run things. I was familiar with the program. So I think that was a very top contender. That I kind of knew about how the program worked. I knew about what I would be kind of doing freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. And I was really pleased by just Indiana University as a whole, um, just kind of the programs they offered in terms of like studying abroad and internships and getting a job right out of college. Indiana University has a lot of companies recruit from the school. So I think that was really big for me as well. Um, and yeah, I think there was just a few other things. Like I knew I wanted to go to a bigger school that had more of a school spirit kind of presence. So there were specific things that I was looking for as well that I saw in IU.
What do you mean by school spirit presence? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a Big Ten school, so big into sports, big good football team, basketball team, tailgates, things. It was a fun school from what I had heard about it. And I wanted something like that. I wanted to have a good balance between school and a social life. So that I saw in Indiana University was a good, big, fun school that also had a great business program.
Okay, that's good to know. So you wanted to have a nice mix and balance.
Mhm.
Did you know anybody that was going to the school?
Yeah, so I known a few people from kind of classes before me, and then I had known a few people in my class as well. So mainly people going into business, some not. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you some questions about the parents part of it. So obviously, this is the time when you're in high school. This is an important time where you need to partner really closely with your parents in this decision-making process of where you want to go, what do you want to study. So how did your parents support you during the college process, and what really helped?
I think, I mean, my parents were a huge, huge help of me getting into college, and I probably would not have been able to done it without them, or to do it without them. Sorry. They were able to proofread every single one of my essays. We were brainstorming, doing all those things together. They supported me throughout all the extracurriculars, helped me with school, helped me get the grades I got. So they were a huge, huge part of getting into college, for sure. And I think really having their support and having their backbone truly helped me get where I am today.
Okay. Would you be able to give some examples of like how they helped you?
Yeah. So I will say one thing that really helped, I mentioned I have an older brother. So 3 years before me, they were going through this process for the first time. So kind of when they got to where I was doing it, they were a little more experienced. I think that did help a little bit.
Okay.
So they kind of knew how the college application process worked. They knew how to apply to a school. They knew like the things, like all the small things that you kind of don't really know until you're actually applying. They already knew all of that. So I think that really helped. But specific examples, I mean, like I mentioned, we would sit and brainstorm for my essays together about what I could write and what an outline would look like, since I wasn't really using AI or ChatGPT at that time. They were, I guess, kind of able to proofread my essays. After I wrote them, we would sit and go through the essay, and they would say, oh, I don't like that word, use this one. Take that sentence out, put this one in. That was super helpful. They would proofread all my applications. I think that was a big one. You could miss a number here or there. So that was really good having someone to look at that. Yeah, I think that was just a few examples of the little work that they did, or a little part of the large work that they were able to do for me coming into college.
What's one thing you wish parents understood better about a college journey for a student? It doesn't have to be you, but like overall, because, your peers were going through the same process.
I mean, I think it's hard, and I think there ends up kind of being a lot of pressure to get into a good college, but I think kind of just understanding that I think you are meant to go where you are meant to go is a big part of kind of what I think, and I think is what all parents should think as well. I think there should be a lot more influence of the student of where they want to go rather than the parent, because I think knowing kind of how you are as a person and where you would fit in and things like that, I think is more of what the student could kind of bring to the table. So I think just understanding that there are certain things your student might get, there's certain things your student might not get is a big thing to understand, and that wherever they end up, I mean, they'll end up doing a great job there. They'll bring whatever they have to the table there. They'll have different experiences there. And I think that's just something to keep in mind.
Did you have any pressure to stay in Texas?
No, I think I made it very clear freshman, sophomore year that I was leaving Texas to go to college. I think they were okay with it because my brother did also go out of state pretty far. So I do think they were probably sad about it, but I think they understood.
Okay, that's good to know. I've spoken to some students, and they've had some struggles where the student has applied to multiple schools and have gotten in to, you know, their dream school, but then the parents are like, no, 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 you're staying in state.
Yeah.
And, you know, um, so
I mean, there's other factors like financial factors, which I mean, a lot of people can't afford to go out of state. So I think whatever kind of fits in with your financial range as well. I would also recommend applying to as many scholarships as you can. College is expensive. So I have a lot of scholarship, which is able to kind of get me to Indiana. So that's another thing I think helps as well.
Did you apply to scholarships while you were in high school, or did you apply to scholarships? Like, what year did you start applying?
I started applying like as I was applying for college. A little after, I believe, is the timeline is typically when scholarships open. So I was able to actually get some money from Indiana, which really helped, but little scholarships here and there, any money helps usually at the end of the day.
How many scholarships do you think you applied and got?
Oh, I applied to so many. I wouldn't even be able to tell you how many, but right now I only have about 4 or 5. So
okay. So
it's hard.
So what would you recommend? Like, if I'm a student in high school, what year should I start applying, and where should I go to start applying for these things? Because there's a lot of scams out there, from what I understand.
They do have a lot of websites where you can just auto apply to scholarships. I would first recommend applying through the school that you are planning to go to. You don't apply to those school scholarships until you accept there, obviously. So I mean, as soon as I accepted Indiana, I applied to that scholarship. I think there's also even some colleges that you can apply as you're applying to the college. So my school, like Indiana, had a huge portal website for scholarships, and these were just like families giving back to students. So they have a lot of those as well. Many companies do student scholarships. So those you can find on websites. I think I had a scholarship finder website thing that I had signed up for. So, I mean, I have like a Toyota scholarship. That was I actually got through the Girl Scouts program, but Toyota itself has scholarships. So most companies do have things like money they're willing to give to college students, and they will renew it all 4 years. So you really just have to do your research. And usually it's typically after you're done applying for colleges. So after one application's on to the next, but it's just really doing your research, things like that, and looking into kind of, you can usually tell kind of, oh, this company has given scholarships in the past, or this company is kind of weird, don't apply to that. But yeah, usually things like that.
So it's not a direct, easy path. You have to kind of search, and you got to find it.
Typically, no. Yeah. I mean, I think unless you're getting your money from your university, finding external scholarships is a little difficult. But I mean, things I would recommend would be like going to a scholarship finding website, doing research, just searching out different companies that you've heard of, keeping it all organized usually works out.
Okay. Got 2 questions in the chat. One of them is, what made you want to go to IU? I think we kind of covered that. And the second one is similar. Do you think studying real estate is good at IU? I guess they're different.
Yeah, I can touch on the first one again. Basically, I mean, just after getting all of my acceptances, looking at where I wanted to go, it was the top business school I had gotten into, and it was out of state. So it met my 2 biggest criteria, but it's also a big sports school. It has a lot of good, fun school spirit items, activities. It's a large school. It fit everything I wanted. So there were multiple criteria I had for going to school, and it fit all of them. So that was utmost kind of what made me decide to go there. And then in terms of real estate, I'm not too sure what number the real estate program is at Kelley, but I would definitely say it is a very good school to go to for real estate. I know there are multiple clubs and organizations and workshops for the real estate major and people who are interested in it. So, I mean, you're basically around a ton of people who have had experience in real estate or want to go into real estate, and you're able to network with people who are in the real estate industry. And so I do agree. I think honestly, for any field of business, it would be great just because they have so many different programs and organizations that tailor to every single kind of business.
This is an interesting question as well. What would you do if colleges you were accepted to didn't meet your criteria? Maybe the bottom school didn't have the school life balance that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that is always a little hard. I think I did get just a little lucky that I did find a school that kind of met everything I wanted. I think sometimes if you are looking at a list of 5 schools and none of them are perfect, I think you just kind of have to take a deeper dive into thinking about what is the most perfect one for me. Do the most research you can about programs and organizations that are at this school. If there's certain clubs that you want to apply to, I knew going into college I wanted to apply to a just women's organization, and I'm in one now. So look into if there is a program that you want to do, if there's a certain field of business that you want to go into that is maybe higher or more higher ranked or does more at a different school. There is definitely some sacrifice you might have to make, but I think looking into smaller details, I think should kind of help you draw that school out. And then, like I said, I think honestly, where you end up is where you were meant to end up. I think it works out like that. And if you really hate the school, you can always change. So
yeah, I like that mindset. I'm also curious to find out, like, you're going to one of the top schools in the US, right? Very competitive schools. What is the benefit of going to a top business school? Like, why is that important?
Yeah, I think obviously like the academics, so great professors, great programs, great course curriculum. You're kind of learning a variety of things with great professors who've had good experience in the industry. Multiple of my professors have been in the business field before they came and taught at Kelley. So that's always great to have their perspective on things. And then, like I think I said before, a bunch of companies, many companies recruit at IU. And I think that's a big one. I think that's kind of another thing that drew me in is that they had a very high job offer rate after college. And then they also just have, I think, like I said, they have great programs and great workshops where you're kind of able to get together with a group of people who are interested in the same field and industry as you. You're able to network with professionals in that field, which would hopefully help you land an internship or a job outside of school. And so I think just some of that, there's just a lot of people who leave Kelley in very good hands. And I think a lot of that is Kelley's doing.
Okay. Got another question for you here. You said that taking some AP classes weren't worth it. What were those classes and why?
Yeah. So again, this is just for me personally, very specifically for me, because the school I went to didn't take these and I did not enjoy the class. So I would definitely say AP Human Geography was my first one. Did not take my credit and would not have counted for anything at my school specifically. AP Seminar was another one I took. I know a lot of people are set on getting the AP Capstone, which is the AP Seminar and AP Research. I think they do teach you a lot of skills about like essay writing and things like that. But that I know of, a lot of schools do not take those credits. And I think it is a lot of time you're spending in school working on essays and group projects and things like that, where you could be doing something else. So in my personal opinion, I don't think those are very worth it. And then this is in my opinion. I know there's probably not a lot. I don't know if there's a lot of medical students who are interested in that field. At least in Frisco, I mean, if you're taking like AP Bio, AP Physics, AP Chemistry, and end up using that credit in school, I've heard that it kind of does more harm than good because you're kind of skipping out on the basic knowledge you would have needed for higher level classes in college. So you either end up having to retake those courses or just don't remember the material. So I think tread very cautiously on those. For me specifically, I mean, I took AP Bio and I was able to use the credit. So I wouldn't say it was completely useless for me, but I'm trying to think of what else. There were some, again, like some, I think like the AP English classes. depending on how well you do in those courses, I think they're great learning advantages. But again, a lot of colleges sometimes don't take both. They may only take one. And especially being a business student, you don't really need a lot of English or social sciences credits. You need more credits that you actually get at college. So very specific on the person, very specific on what school you go to, but that was just for me.
So you're saying basically because you went to Indiana University, none of the AP credits actually transferred over. They were just GPA boosters.
Yeah, or they transferred over in like a miscellaneous credit that didn't count for anything, which at the end of the day doesn't really matter when you're trying to get the credits that actually matter. So again, they all depend on the school, and some you have to get like perfect scores on all of them for them to count. So it all depends on where you end up going.
Okay. So we're almost coming to the end of our webinar. So I have some fun and personal questions for you. Since this is about business, what's your favorite business-related book, movie, or podcast?
Let's see. I don't listen to many podcasts, but there is a show, I think, on NPR that I'll listen to when I'm in the car with my parents sometimes, and they'll have it playing. I do not remember what it's called, but they have kind of business talk going on about it's kind of a what's going on in the world at the time show. And so that one's pretty interesting. In terms of movies, I mean, I haven't really watched too many crazy amounts of business movies. I think The Social Network was a great one. I mean, it kind of taught you about entrepreneurship and the struggles and the issues and the challenges you face with that. So I think that was pretty interesting.
If the students that are watching this, they could just take one thing away from this, what would that be?
I think, I mean, I said it a few times already. I think don't stress out too much about having a perfect GPA and having a perfect test score and ending up at the perfect place. I think I said it before. I think you are meant to be where you are meant to be. And I think that's something to keep in mind throughout the entire college process. It's not worth losing sleep over. It is I will say it's a very stressful decision. You don't want to think that you're making the wrong decision, but I think you yourself will make the right decision for yourself. And I think that's very important to keep in mind, especially when you're going through such a stressful process. It's not easy, especially when you're doing it for the first time. So I think just keep the stress low as much as you can, and things will happen. Things will work out.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I think, I'm curious, like, are you changing so you have business and you have healthcare. Do you kind of see what career or field you're going to end up going into?
Honestly, I cannot say for sure. I have a few industries that I am somewhat interested in going into. Again, like I said, I haven't really taken too many like higher level courses yet since I can.
So you said that you haven't taken the higher level courses, so you don't know exactly what track you're going to go into.
Yeah. I just said, I think I had like a few kind of in mind that I've heard from different alumni and different professionals that they've kind of shared about and talked about.
Okay, I see. So it's still a little bit unknown as of right now. You're studying business. You know you want to be in the business. And you knew for sure that you didn't want to go into healthcare, but you have healthcare as a minor, which you are, I think you're completed, right? So, and now you'll see where you're going to go from there. So it doesn't, so you still have a path that's still unfolding. You'll figure it out. You're trusting the process, and you'll see where you end up going, right? Because you're at the right university. So you'll figure it out. This is a good note for us to end the webinar at. So thank you guys for attending. And we will be having another one of these sometime in the next month. We'll be announcing when they're going to happen, and we'll share them on our social media. If you are interested in becoming a speaker, we're looking for student speakers, and we're also looking for professionals that would be interested in speaking and sharing your insights with the students that join us. Please reach out to us. You can also submit a form on mytrex.ai and let us know what you would be interested in speaking about. Well, Thank you so much, Anika, for your time. I really appreciate it. I think this is very beneficial and useful information, especially the part about what AP classes one should be taking, because those are hard. So we want to make
Yeah.
sure that we're not wasting our time. So that's good to know.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so
I
much.
hope this helped, and I wish you all the best with your high school and college journey.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.